Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hello there, I'm Chris Dashew.
And I'm Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt that aired on HBO from 1989 to 1996.
Oh, yeah, that's my line. There are bonus episodes after every season, which I encourage you to go back and watch. Because
there will not be another one.
This is the final hurrah here.
Well, to be fair, we don't know if we're doing anything. We'll probably do a wrap-up for this season.
Yes, absolutely. I think we should do an overall wrap-up. Yeah. I mean, if you want to count that as a bonus episode.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's more of a bonus in the sense that, like, we're not talking about the show
specifically, right?
Episode by episode.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But yeah, but this is the penultimate episode of our show. At least of talking about the show proper.
Yes.
Which is a shame because the episodes we're talking about, 11 and 12 of season 7, Confession and Ear Today Gone Tomorrow, are 2 episodes in season 7. So let's talk about them.
Read the next line for me, please.
Okay, I see M, D, C.
Okay, that's enough. I think I see what the problem is. Your eyes are in terrible shape. Probably from watching too much Tales from the Crypt. To fix it will require coactive lenses, maybe even radial skeratotomy. Although there is another test I could perform. We'll start by turning out the lights and making you look at this. It's a nasty nugget about a writer who's pretty fear-sighted himself. I call this one Confession.
So Confession aired July 5th, 1996. It is directed by Peter Hewitt and written, once again, by Scott Nimmerfro. And it stars Eddie Izzard and Ciarán Hinds as a screenwriter and detective, respectively. And Ciarán Hinds is the best detective in this precinct.
Sure is. A quirky one at that.
And Eddie Izzard is being accused of murdering people because she's a screenwriter who's masquerading as Scott Nimmerfro.
Yeah, basically. This is Scott casting himself.
Saying,
where,
fuck you to the industry.
Which, look, I actually like that sort of central conceit. It's something I think about from time to time as a writer. I often think, sometimes you're looking up odd topics in order to put them into a fictional context. But anyone who would look at your Google history would think, what is wrong with this fucking person? So on that level,
and you hear that all the time, by the way.
Yeah. So
you hear like, oh, we went and looked at their Google search and it said that you were searching how to get rid of a dead body. It's like, well, I write about it for a living.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think that is just a good sort of modern fear, or at least from an artistic point of view, that you're trying to do something artistic, but any research or side work to get to that point can be viewed as deviant and worthy of prosecution, which clearly happens in this episode, where it's a screenwriter who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's now an easy mark to blame these murders on.
Well, you know what they say: you can go to jail for being weird.
You certainly can. Those Paradise Lost kids are a perfect example. And that is
you're not supposed to go to jail for being weird, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's easy to convince people of something you're not, I think, particularly if they've never met you before. But anyway, so the fact that it gets turned into that kind of plot line, I appreciated about the episode, because as it was in the comic book, not Tales from the Crypt, this was Shock Suspense Stories number 4. Written by Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein and drawn by Wally Wood. Very beautifully drawn by Wally Wood in the comic. But the story in the comic is a guy is driving home and witnesses an accident, or finds a body, basically, like by the side of the road, has no recourse. He's in the middle of nowhere, so he drives to the next town to call the police, but gets pulled over on the way. His car has a broken headlight, and they found glass at the scene, so they shake this guy down to get him to confess, and then the lead investigator shows up and really starts hammering that this guy did it. Even after the rest of the people are like, yeah, I don't think he actually did do it. We've beaten confessions out of tougher guys. And the central inspector just keeps on going and going and going. And as it turns out, just like in this episode, it's because the guy had run his own wife over and needed a scapegoat, and so this became the guy. So thematically, it's the same story. I think the twist with the screenwriter, while is very meta, and we're kind of tired of all of that now, I thought was a good thing for that time and place. I didn't hate the episode, and it was easy to watch because of the two actors on screen, but all of the machinations around it just felt a little trope and a little, we've seen this all before. And Peter Hewitt as a director, am I wrong, but did Peter Hewitt direct Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Could I be wrong about that? Or was it the sequel?
He directed Bogus Journey.
Which is, directorially speaking, a better film than that. So it's not even like the
I would also say it's just a better movie in general, but I know, roast me, but also if you'd like to hear my opinion, go check out the Projection Booth X Culture Cast episode where we talked about all 3 movies, and I justify my feelings, because you know what? I'll go to the grave saying Bogus Journey is a better movie.
Oh, it is a better movie. There's no question about that.
Oh, it's more, I know, but you know what the problem with it is, just like I do. It's the whole, this is a weird movie. They're doing weird things. It's not time travel. It's hell and heaven and everywhere in between.
It's Aliens to Alien, though. It's like I love both of those movies, but I will more often than not put on Bogus Journey just because it is crazier and ultimately funnier. So,
and also later Evil Us's.
Yeah. Not bad. Yeah, let's make things bad. Favorite line of that movie. But anyway. As good a director as Peter Hewitt was there, I don't think he can sort of pull this out. And, the look of the thing is very 90s. It's a lot of sort of overly saturated colors, and, we're not sure what world this takes place in. Everyone is kind of dressed like...
it takes place in a comic book, right?
Basically. I mean, if you had said this is...
That is what I convinced myself of, because otherwise it could not have been set in reality.
Yeah, no. There was a lot of that in the 90s as well, and I think that sort of got set off when Tim Burton did Batman, and he set it in a kind of alternate Earth where 1950s cars are still around, but it's clearly late 80s.
Do you know what this reminded me of? So much, and it's an episode from this show. And when I say it, you'll probably be like, oh yeah. This reminded me of 2 for the show, the David Paymer, Tracy Lords episode.
2 for the show. Oh, no, I don't remember it. I've put it from my mind.
Where David Paymer and that I forget what the actor's name is, Vincent Spano are on the train together, and it turns out that he's the one who's in on it.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
the same conceit of this episode. It's like, oh, you're trying to catch the killer. Wink, wink. I am the killer. Wink, wink. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I had never seen this episode before, and I had read the comic, so I kind of knew that the cop was going to be the killer, but they make a point of him being a bowler, and that's how he's transporting these heads around. So they take pains to have another cop like unzipper the bag and look inside, and what we see is a bowling ball, but it's just the top of the bowling ball. Even that felt like had I had no prior knowledge, I'd be like, yeah, that's a false thing. Obviously the head is in there, because it's so obvious that this guy is the killer. There's never any doubt that Eddie Izzard's character is not the villain. So I don't know.
Oh, 100%. It's really lazy.
Yeah, and
right? I mean,
yeah.
It's the laziest. This is the laziest outcome.
What ends up happening, I noticed, when somebody goes far afield from the original comic, they tend to come up with some other new modern concept. In their mind, they've revitalized a stale story, but then they really don't do anything to get into the story itself. It's more about the setup and the twist. And if we can make the twist different than the comic, but more shocking, which it never is, because we're always expecting it, because it's Tales from the Crypt. That is rife this season, and Scott was as guilty as anybody there.
Oh, Scott Nimmerfro. You had to go meta. You had to complain about everybody. I mean, hey, whatever, right?
You used to write for something called Tales from the Crypt. Ooh, I'm watching Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, and it got canceled. Ooh. Like, yeah, we get it. Like, look, again, we don't want to throw dirt on the dude's grave because Scott Nimmerfro is no longer with us, but it's a little on the head, bro.
Yeah. Oh, it's which most of his work on this series was. Like, you got an occasional passable episode, and the rest were kind of just, kind of clever revamps of the stories that it was based on, but as lazy as anything else. It's, can I recommend this episode? Absolutely not. I mean, in comparison to this season, maybe it was better, maybe it was watchable because of the performances on screen, but other than that, in my own personal sort of, fear of being wrongly accused, but I brought more to the story than the story brought to me.
Well, and again, I think my biggest takeaway is you have Eddie Izzard and Ciarán Hinds, and neither one of them get any time to do anything. You could have let them sit in a room for an hour together and just go back and forth, and it would have been entertaining. Why did you only give us like 11 minutes of it?
But that was what Gene Siskel's old thing when he, after a movie, like if he liked the performances but didn't like the movie itself and was sort of wrestling with whether or not he would recommend the movie based on the performances, he would ask, would I have enjoyed a movie more of those actors eating breakfast and talking? And that's the case here. Like, yeah, of course, that would have been great. Like, I'm sure, those two guys are interesting enough just to watch. Never mind, the stories that they would have told would have been far more interesting than the sort of rote revenge kind of tale. I don't know. This ain't good. I'm going to say skip this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and it's, it's kind of coincidental that Ciarán Hinds, Steppenwolf of Justice League fame, is being criminally wasted here too. So it goes from Game of Thrones to this to Harry Potter.
He did play Julius Caesar on one season of Rome, the HBO television series, and he's very good in that. I would recommend, if you want to see Ciarán Hinds doing his thing, watch that show. And actually, that was a really good.
He is also great. He's also great in The Terror.
Don't know it.
It's a TV show about the Franklin expedition to the Northwest Passage.
Yeah, I know of it. I have not yet partaken of it. I will check it out.
The first season is about the Franklin Passage. The second season is about Japanese internment. You know, that thing that totally didn't happen because nobody talks about it anymore?
Yeah, except for George Takei. He's on the front lines with that. Good for him.
Oh, well, yeah. George Takei is actually in the show about it.
Spectacular.
Yeah, so check that out. Don't watch this episode. Father Malone said it best. Skip it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we transition to the second to last episode of Tales from the Crypt. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Look, lady, I'm sorry if the product made your skin fall off, but we never do exchanges on sale merchandise. Next, some people. Maybe at Doomingdale's, the ghostimers always fright, but not here. Attention all Slaymore choppers, interested in tonight's Boo Night special? It concerns a couple of crooks who are about to learn the benefits of dying wholesale. I call this bit of gash and carry Ear Today, Gone Tomorrow.
So Ear Today, Gone Tomorrow is directed by Christopher Hart. It's written by Stephen Dodd and Ed Tapia. It is based off of Haunt of Fear 11. And it stars Robert Lindsay as a safecracker who gets in with some bad folks. And this is without a doubt one of the dumbest things I have ever seen.
It's real bad. Yeah, so he's a safecracker.
It's shocking in its lack of logic.
Safecracker who's losing his hearing gets taken in by a millionaire's wife who wants this guy to crack her safe. But of course, he has this impediment in that he's losing his hearing. But she knows a guy.
She also wants him to crack her safe.
Yeah, but she's only using sex to sort of sway him, which I actually appreciated that the character
I
says,
thought that was the euphemism we were going for.
Yeah, of course.
No.
I'm continuing it. That's one aspect I like, that the guy wasn't really falling for that. Like, that I like. But anyway, so he undergoes a medical experimentation where they replace his eardrums, or her ears in general, with that of an owl. So now he can hear.
Well, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know that it's an owl yet.
Right. Yeah. That's
the
true.
Big conceit, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just stupid. It's all double crosses. It's the same thing we've seen a million times on Tales from the Crypt. But yes, it was an owl that they used to replace his ears, and now he turns into one for some reason.
Well, no. He doesn't turn into one. He turns halfway into one. Because if he turned into one, then I would have less questions than I have now, which is, what? Where was her tail and her fur?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The girl had undergone experimentation as well, like have replaced her eyes, I guess, and so now she has some of the attributes.
But hold on, you're missing the important part. They don't replace them in the people who are getting them. They give them to someone else so that they're like a petri dish for it, and then they kill that person and take the organ from them to put into the person because science is slow, says the other actor in this, David Gant.
It's very overly complicated for what is a nothing of a payoff, where we get some poor prosthetic work from the team over there in England. I got to say, across the board this season, whoever's doing the physical effects, the special effects makeup for this season of Tales from the Crypt, did not do a good job in any way. And that continues.
Understatement of the year.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to a home haunt around Halloween time, you're going to see better makeup than we got out of this season of Tales from the Crypt, including this transformation at the end, which guy gets a beak, I guess. Can't talk anymore.
No, he gets a beak. There's no guessing here. It just looks like shit.
It's really bad. Now you mentioned that this is based on Haunt of Fear number 11. I had not seen this episode, and I was not familiar with the comic book derivation of it, so I went and got Haunt of Fear number 11. That story was written by Al Feldstein alone and drawn by Jack Davis. Here's the thing. That story, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, is about two guys running a fertilizer factory or production plant that is next door to a cemetery. They receive an order that they cannot possibly fill, but it will make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. So they tunnel through the basement of their factory into the graveyard, taking all of the corpses in order to turn them into fertilizer. Later in the story, these guys are on a trip, some business trip, and they're in the middle of cornfields when their car breaks down. They see a farmer's house. get out of the car to go call someone, and as they're walking through the field, the ears of corn come to life and pummel them to death because that field was fertilized with the corpses that they had delivered to the fertilizer company. Now, I thought that is the most freely adapted episode of Tales from the Crypt of all time. But
I mean, the fact that they went from Killer Corn to a guy with a beak, that is a jump.
Right. Now, one would think so. Except when I dug a little deeper, I discovered that this is not based on Ear Today, Gone Tomorrow, even though they use the title. It's actually from a genuine Tales from the Crypt comic book, number 24. The original story is called Bats in My Belfry, where there's no safe cracking.
Which, by the way, sounds like the most hilarious, euphemism. I got some bats in my belfry if you want to come get them.
Mm-hmm. That concerned a guy who was losing his sight. Was it his sight? No, it was his hearing. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, because they replace it with a bat in that version, right?
In that version, he's an actor, is a stage actor, and he's about to sort of get a big role, which will catapult him to fame. And he's had this wife who's lived with him the entire time he was struggling as an actor. And now here it comes, and he knows, I could probably fake it, but I'm going to miss my cues. I have to do something. Talks to a guy he knew who was, basically the story plays out as it is. A friend of his who's sympathetic says, listen, I do know this guy. He's doing this experiment where he's replacing organs with working organs. It might work for you. It's not an owl. They've replaced his things with a bat, which he knows full well from jump. He knows he's getting a bat's hearing. As it turns out, see, the story is so Tales from the Crypty, it's out of hand. The wife has a lover, and they're going to bump this guy off.
Wouldn't be Tales of the Crypt without that.
Yeah, right? So he can hear them having a conversation because he has vampire or bat hearing now. And when the guy comes after him, they're in an alleyway, and the guy's going to kill him. But it turns out that it was a vampire bat that they used to replace the thing. So he has become a vampire. And he kills the guy, goes back, kills the wife, takes their bodies, feeds them to his friend who had an eye transplant with the cat and is now feral and needs to eat flesh. So there you go. It ends up being kind of freely adapted either way. But Jesus Christ, man, I wanted them to have made that Haunt of Fear story with the ears of corn smacking these guys to death. That could have been at least hilarious.
That sounded like the episode I wish we had gotten.
That's what I mean.
Because it sounds just stupid enough to work.
I read that comic and I was like, are you kidding? Why didn't we have this? And then I saw what they had actually drawn from it. I'm like, oh, okay, they just pulled the title. That's a drag. So,
well, yeah, because you couldn't call it Bats in the Belfry without it having bats in it.
Yeah.
Because making the character a bat would have made no sense. Oh, wait, it wouldn't have mattered. So why did you change it? That's what I've never understood. I don't understand the logic here. Why did you why did you steal a name and then rip off an episode or adapt an episode? But in adapting the episode, whose title would have made sense, could you have kept the animal that they used to turn him into as a bat? You wouldn't have had to change it at all. And turning him into a bat wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, and I think that the thinking must have been, wait, he turns into a vampire because he has a vampire bat thing? That's just silly. Let's have him...
Yeah, that's what it is. So unbelievable.
Who?
The most unbelievable of things is this guy turning into a vampire. Who? Not him turning into a goddamn owl.
No, that just happens, So they made the right call here in avoiding the utter ridiculousness of a man turning into a bat or a vampire by the end of the episode. And God forbid we ever get a decent vampire story here on Tales from the Crypt.
Donald Longtooth has entered the chat.
Yeah, sure has. Put him in the waiting room.
Yeah, we don't want him part of the call yet. Donald Longtooth also wrote a couple episodes of this show. I don't know if you know that.
I'm aware of his prolific work in the early seasons of this show.
It's season 7 has been bad.
Yeah, speaking of euphemisms, it's a pit. It's never ending.
It's a train wreck.
Yeah. like quicksand. You just can't get leverage to get up on top.
If what it feels like is all of the positive movement and positive progression that we've made with this show and all of the good that the show has done, because a lot of this show is really good, has been completely wasted in this 7th season. The 7th season feels like it is doing its damnedest to try to ruin the entire show for us.
It does seem that way. I mean, and I know we've said this before, like, if it was their intention to do a Viking funeral, then they did it in the laziest way possible. If the idea was you got one more season and this is definitely it, even though you thought, and you had thought you had already been sandbagged, and then they're like, no, one more. Like, why wouldn't you turn it up all the way? Make the goriest episodes, the craziest episodes, the sexiest episodes. It's like like a missed opportunity on every level. Like putting aside, just make competent Tales from the Crypt episodes. No, like you could have gone whole hog, and instead what we've gotten is just like, it's not
vegan sausage.
Yeah, it's such a shadow of its former self, and that anyone who was in charge was fine with that is really dismaying.
And here is the thing. We went into this season knowing that the season was going to be bad because we've heard nothing but that from folks who love the show. And look, we've gotten reviews on iTunes about people who think that we don't like the show. And why would you talk about this show if you don't like it? If you can't be objective about the shit that you watch, that's not our fault.
Yeah, and
that's your fault.
I would suggest
you can, just because you like something doesn't mean you can follow it blindly off of the cliff.
Yeah, and I would suggest that these people go back and actually watch the show as we did. It was eye-opening.
No, we're wrong because we don't like the show, even though we've spent the last 4 fucking years watching the show.
Yeah, these people who are just sort of, all they do, it seems to me most of these people just, as we did, remember the best episodes and remember how much the Crypt Keeper made them laugh or interested them in horror, or, it was a gateway for them for horror. And, that's all valid. And honestly...
And frankly, we are in the same boat in many respects.
Yeah, and... well,
we were 4 years ago.
Right, but at the same time, I don't think critically thinking, I never said to anyone it was a perfect series. I couldn't rail at somebody for telling me that they didn't like the show. I would say, well, you should watch these episodes because those are great. Speaking to your comment about people following it blindly, why not go back and watch it? Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, even as bad as the past 2 seasons have been, and they've been really, really bad, it has not lessened my love for the show one iota. The things that I remembered
not one bit.
Initially from watching it, I'm still going to remember. And there are a few gems there that I was not even privy to before rewatching it. So I'd say definitely everyone go back and watch as many episodes as you want, because it will startle you, the ratio of good to bad.
But I will say I'm not in too much surprise at how many bad ones there are.
Well,
given what kind of show this is.
Well, I mean,
an anthology.
Yeah, you're speaking
show.
about anthology, right? I mean, even the best anthology shows are going to have some clunkers, no question about it. But
yeah, Twilight Zone, the original run of the Twilight Zone,
absolutely.
Not every episode of that is good.
Yeah, people remember, Nightmare on 20,000 Feet, certainly great episode, or any episode that touched you or scared you. Those are still touching and scary, but there was a lot that never sort of saw the light of day after a while. Certainly not when they start putting best of, playlists of shows and movies and whatever. You're only going to give the best, and so your opinion is going to stay that was the best or anthology series of all time. I will say this about Tales from the Crypt, and I know I've said this before, but as far as the track record of anthology shows is always hit or miss, because it's always based on the writing. And who knows what's being brought to the table while you're in the gears of making a television show happen. But in this case, how many years had they have to have been on year 6 making the show by now, right? It came out in 97, and they had to have filmed it in 96. They've been doing it since 89.
I would assume.
Yeah. So there's the wealth of material in all of the EC comics. It's inexcusable. Like, I know we've talked about it before. They tried to make a spin-off show, The Two-Fisted Tales, and that didn't pan out. Nevertheless, I guarantee you, if you read through all of Two-Fisted Tales, you're going to get a few supernatural and or sort of bitterly ironic stories that could have been transposed here, which they did a couple of times, but not really. And, the majority of the series is based on Haunt of Fear and Vault of Horror anyway. Like, you can't tell me every issue of Tales from the Crypt or Haunt of Fear, you've got 5 stories in it. Multiplied by how many issues, multiplied by how many titles. The fact that they're only doing 12, 13 episodes a season and they didn't find a gem or something that could be polished into one is part and parcel with the last 2 seasons of the show. People just didn't care anymore and weren't giving their best effort. So anyway, long way to say that I still love the show, but if you're defending this season, I don't know that I can continue to talk to you as a rational human being. It's really bad.
Well, and let's not kid ourselves, and this is something that we haven't really brought up, and I know we had talked about, maybe we would talk about it. I still think maybe we do have one or two bonus episodes in us, and I think and I know the things we could cover, but you brought this up because you brought up Two-Fisted Tales, so I want to bring this up for the audience in case the audience doesn't know. There wasn't just one other show that they were trying to launch from Tales from the Crypt.
That is true.
There were two. There was another show that was running a year later, and they ran it for 1 season and ran it into the ground.
Yeah.
And it was on HBO. And it was produced by the same group of 5 people. And that show was Perversions of Science. We watched 1 episode of it together when my wife and I came to visit you, 2 years ago now? We watched an episode together, the 4 of us. And it was offensive and shocking and really dumb.
Yeah.
But again, it goes to this idea that, like, they had Tales from the Crypt and they didn't use any Tales from the Crypt stuff.
Yeah.
And then they just go and they're like, oh, now we have access to EC Comics' weird science, weird fantasy, and incredible sci-fi. Like, okay.
And you know what? That only reinforces what I said, because they had those books, which they didn't adapt any of those for Tales from the Crypt. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of horrifying stories in those 3 titles. And just, I don't think that they were, like, holding off and waiting to do this separate series. I think that it was just an afterthought, like, well, let's keep the money train going. And I did watch the entirety of Perversions of Science after we watched the 1 episode. And there are some good ones. But then there's a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, good enough episodes, which...
Well, there's only 10 episodes, right? I mean...
Yeah.
It's sad to me because I hope we talk about... I think we should talk about 1 or 2 Perversions of Science episodes.
The good ones.
Yeah, the good ones. Not the ones with sex change, Paul Williams, Yancey Butler, something about a... Fuck, I don't know. We're not.
See,
that
the way
one.
you just described it is going to make people think it's good. It's not.
It's not. It sounds good, but it's not. It's sad to me because, like you said, you look at the sources for those episodes, and those kinds of stories felt like they should have been adapted before you adapted Two-Fisted Tales.
Totally. There's enough horror in weird science and weird fantasy.
Or horror, like Two-Fisted Tales stuff is not horror adjacent. It's like horror double adjacent. Like, Two-Fisted Tales is not adjacent. Sci-fi is closer to horror than action is.
Absolutely.
Or cowboy stories.
The funny
like
thing about
Showdown.
that is they made Two-Fisted Tales like they had made the pilot for Tales from the Crypt with 3 separate tales by sort of bigger name directors. And in that case, one of the stories is adapted from nothing. Like, they didn't even trust their source material in their pilot.
It's really sad that Tales from the Crypt ends up looking like the poster child for what's wrong with the industry now.
Truly.
Right? Like, oh, we have this cool source material
Right.
that actually is really good. Let's just ignore it completely and just use the title.
That's going on a lot.
Thanks, Weiss and Benioff.
Or like our recent DC fair, like
or Dexter,
a fundamental misunderstanding of the property to begin with, but knowing that people love it, so let's go ahead and adapt it. But you know what? And I don't think you got to give the fans what they want. I'm not that guy. Like, you can adapt something in the spirit of the material and do a creditable job of emulating what people loved about it in the first place. But you have to have had that love of the show or whatever property we're talking about to begin with. Just sort of, merchandising it effectively is never going to result in something good. And it does feel that way with the EC Comics, maybe more with the other titles. I'm sure those five guys, the executive producers, had read Tales from the Crypt, Revolt of Horror, and remember loving it and the feeling it made in them when they were kids, without sort of going full bore into all of the issues. So, like, Tales from the Crypt, at least early on, felt like the love of the material was there, whereas both Two-Fisted Tales and Perversions of Science, it was just like, well, what can we do with this? Which is never a reason to do anything.
And look, I don't think I will ever say, or I don't think I will ever have a nice word to say about David Giler. So you could take 4 of those people out.
Yeah, Dave Giler and
I'm
Walter
sorry.
Hill. I mean, look, I think Walter Hill is one of the best action filmmakers of all time. But like, as a producer,
you will not find me saying anything positive about Giler.
Well, look, Hill's right there with him. I mean, look, the pair of them attempted to remove Dan O'Bannon's name from the Alien script, replacing it with their own.
That is literally the reason why I don't like either of them.
Yeah.
And it is the same reason that I know you have an issue with them.
Totally. That's
and
he's a writer. They're writers
to me
too.
Cuts to the core of our friendship here.
Love of Dan
I'm not
O'Bannon.
kidding. Like, you're the only person. Well, yeah, but like, we're both very much in the same vein of O'Bannon in a lot of ways. Like, abrasive, don't shut the fuck up, don't know when to shut the fuck up in some respects.
Yeah.
And look at what happened to Dan O'Bannon. I mean,
it's not like
Giler was like, your shit's shit. It's shit.
Yeah.
We're going to rewrite it. Fuck you.
It's not like he was destitute or anything, but there was the potential there for like actual cinematic greatness, which I think he delivered on a number of occasions from without the director's share and one time in it, because Return of the Living Dead is probably the best zombie movie ever made. But
it is.
Yeah, and
it is.
So
and that's coming from you, the person who likes Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead so much.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead is like my favorite movie of all time, but I can recognize that Return of the Living Dead is a whole other animal. It's scary in ways that Romero hadn't not considered, but chose not to portray. He was more interested in a particular viewpoint, and O'Bannon was working actively in the opposite direction of everything Romero had done. And why was he doing that? Because he was a writer and respected what Romero had done, and was, if anything, paying tribute to the man. Which any writer ought to do, including Walter Hill and David Giler, and taking someone's name, change it. And they did it in the sloppiest way possible, where they just changed the characters' names and maybe wrote one more scene and then, submitted it for arbitration. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Well, and here's the funny thing, right? This happens all the time in Hollywood, dear listener. You might not know it, but Father Malone can attest to it, and I can attest to it, having spoken to people and or know people and or have been friends with people that have heard about these kinds of things happening. And 9 times out of 10, nothing comes of it, right? Like, the movie doesn't go on to be one of the most influential horror sci-fi films of all time.
Right.
But in this case, it did.
It sure did, yeah.
And that's the problem. 100%. Is in this scenario, that is the problem. In this scenario, you have cameras in front of people 20, 30 years later, And these people are going, yeah, well, we rewrote the script, and me and Walter Hill, we rewrote it. It's like, fuck you, fuck both of you, fuck the hills you both fucking are standing on right now because you're both full of shit.
Yeah, look, I mean, they brought an element of space.
And Hill doesn't even show up. Geiler's the one making all those claims in the Alien documentary.
Yeah, maybe because Walter Hill knows how wrong he was in doing it, and Geiler.
Well, that's my assumption.
Yeah,
which is why I give Walter Hill a little bit more of a pass of Geiler, but I forget what it's called, like the making, like, what's it called? The Beast or something. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It was from the Alien quadrilogy. It's the making of Alien.
Yeah.
And David Geiler just seems like such a fucking prick.
Yeah.
Just unrepentant asshole of the highest order. And look, most people in the industry aren't like this, but the people that are like him. They just want whatever they want, and they don't give a shit what it takes to get it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just read an interview yesterday with Dan O'Bannon. It was sort of late in life, and they were talking to him about Alien, and he was like, I'm on record as to what happened, and they were asking him about the sequels and stuff, and he's like, those guys detest me because I showed them for the liars that they were, so I have zero involvement other than getting a paycheck from here on out. And it's clear that we can talk about that many movies because those guys didn't give a shit about the property to begin with, and they'll just let anyone make anything now. As long as as long as the money train keeps on rolling, they don't care if the quality dips and gets worse and worse, which it clearly has with that franchise.
And there's part of me that would love to know what those movies would have looked like had Geiler and Hill not stuck their stupid little noses in everything.
True, there were some interesting concepts out there that they put the put the nix on.
Yeah, because look, as much as I like Aliens, which I know you like Aliens too, I mean, I would like to see a universe where we got to see what Dan O'Bannon got to do with it. Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett.
Truly, but at the same time, like, O'Bannon seemed pretty set in the, I think he admired what Cameron did with Aliens because it took it to a different genre. Because O'Bannon recognized that the story was done as far as you can't go back to another horror movie with these guys, with this particular alien, because that it's all based on the sort of surprise and anticipation, and any of the scares from the first film can't really be replicated without, the law of diminishing returns. So I think he was content in cashing his checks there for Alien, and that was the only involvement he wanted with it. But you're right. Ultimately, push comes to shove. If somebody was going to write an Alien sequel, I'm curious to know what his ideas were, because they probably would have been pretty wild.
And if people don't believe that Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett made magic together after the fact, just go watch Total Recall. They wrote the script for that movie.
Yeah. O'Bannon, really. But yeah.
And that movie, look, I don't know a person who doesn't like that movie, but I'm not sure that person exists, because that movie is just so good in every way.
Nor should they, yeah. And that, you know what, I'm just going to keep singing O'Bannon's praises, because when he adapted that script, if you read the original story that it's based on, it's the first act of...
oh, yeah, 100%.
That's all there is to it. And so, like, Shusett came to O'Bannon and said, what can you do with this? And he's like, well, this is just the first act, so I'll write the first act for you, and you can take it to somebody else, but here's what you ought to do. And Shusett was like, no, that's terrible. Brought it to another writer who wrote a second act, which was terrible, as O'Bannon predicted. He came back to O'Bannon and said, okay, do your second act. And then, at the end he was like, you guys are expecting like a James Bond thing here at the end. It needs to be a James Bond ending. He was like, no. Nobody wants him to go to Mars, actually. And brought it to another writer. Same thing. Brought it back to O'Bannon, who sort of finished the script. And then they collectively got rewritten a number of times. If there are dumb things in that movie, it wasn't from O'Bannon. If you read his original script, it's really tight and not as fantastical as what we got.
And Shusett and O'Bannon wrote Dead and Buried, which is also another amazing film that doesn't get enough talk.
Totally.
It's, look, it's this whole thing with Tales from the Crypt. Like, the more I look at the people involved in the making of the show, the more I realize who the problem was.
Well, yeah, I mean, look,
it's very apparent. Let's just put it that way.
Well, they say the fish rots from the head down, right? Mm-hmm. Once those guys check, I think a couple of them were like devotees of the show and recognized it for what it was. But I think once those guys checked out, the other co-executive producers who had already checked out, like, there was no redeeming it. I mean, you still had interesting and creative people behind the scenes. I'm not going to say that, anything after the first or second season wasn't good, because there's plenty to mine out of seasons 3, 4, and 5. But once we get to 6 and 7, it's really patchy and bad. So anyway.
So before we get to our final episode, which is the next thing you'll hear, is our final episode on talking about the show proper. I want to ask you, Father Malone, where did the show, let's use this colloquialism because nobody uses it anymore, where did the show jump the shark? It can't jump the shark anymore. It's already jumped in. The question is, right. Where was that moment?
Where was the moment?
It's not the Three Little Pigs episode coming up. I can guarantee you that.
No. Fonzie was back home by the time we got to the pigs. Jumping the shark. I don't know that I can sort of point to a definitive episode and go, it never recovered from this, because as we've said, it is an anthology show. So you're, even in the worst season, you're going to get maybe something good. But I think once we got to season 4, maybe, or maybe once they started making movies, when did Demon Knight come out in the chronology of our Tales from the Crypt?
So Demon Knight came out in 1995.
95. Wow, that's pretty late.
Yeah. So that was the thing. I was under the impression before we started this podcast that Demon Knight was like, while the show was still on. No, Demon Knight was in between season 6 and 7.
Okay. Well, clearly they knew that was on the horizon, and I'm going to say anything past season 4. I'll say the start of season 5. I'll mark that as the end is nigh for the show.
Do you know what's insane though? Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood. So Demon Knight comes out the 13th of January in 1995. Uh-huh. Okay. So season 5 of the show had already aired.
Okay.
Season 6 of the show is about to finish. So not between 6 and 7 as much as is just right at the end of season 6.
So maybe that.
And then
that was,
Bordello
of
Blood comes out after. Well, Bordello of Blood comes out in 96, in August of 96. Okay. So the show is over when Bordello of Blood comes out. It's weird thinking about it now. Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood feel like they belong around the 3rd season of this show.
They do, because as much as I can't really recommend Bordello of Blood at all, but there's a lot in Demon Knight that
you could recommend it over shit that we've seen in season 7.
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah. That's the thing. It's the lesson we've learned doing this podcast is like, if you're doing 2 episodes together and one of them is good, it becomes magnified how good it is based on the dreariness of the other one. And if you put those 2 movies against anything, season 6 and season 7, I'm going to watch the movie again. Like, rather than waste time watching what are effectively mediocre episodes that seem better because of what's around them. Like, I'd rather watch a 90-minute movie where, it may not be the best movie out there, but they seem to be trying.
And it felt more tonally consistent with the show as I knew it in seasons 1 through 4.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very weird. The movies now, looking back, feel like a holdover. I think I would say the movies were the time the show started going down the tubes, but they happened so late that it is. I would agree with you. I think it's around like halfway through season 4.
Yeah.
Probably for me, the show kind of starts trending downward after What's Cookin'.
You know what? That's a pretty good touchstone for it. Like that, What's Cooking is the Christopher Reeve episode, right?
That was like the last truly amazing episode of this show.
I agree. Like one where I was rapt watching it.
Yeah. And it's one that's like consistently looked at as one of the best episodes of this show.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's a Tales from the Crypt episode. Everything else feels like an imitation of Tales from the Crypt. We've said this a bunch of times, but we also do a show about the Twilight Zone reboot from '85, and it counts there too. Sometimes you're watching it and you're like, what does this have to do with Tales from the Crypt? Like, at all. Like, this is... Why are we watching a crime thing? Like, are you going to throw in a twist at the end, so then, therefore, it's worthy of this? No. Weed those stories out. Get back into the fucking shit, man. Like, there's plenty of good horror out there.
Yeah, I've never understood the lack of horror in this show. I've never understood it. I have never understood it, and I will never understand it. Because I bet if you go back, and maybe I will in between now and when we do our final kind of wrap-up episodes, I would love to know how many of these episodes have verifiable supernatural elements in them.
Very few.
Because I bet it's less than half. I bet it's less than a third, probably.
But you know what's funny? Like, even an episode that had no supernatural elements, and I'm going all the way back to the beginning here, like, whether or not Zemeckis pulled off And All Through the House, as he certainly didn't as well as the original movie, like, regardless of whether or not it's successful as an episode, you can tell it is designed to frighten you. Does that make sense? Like, there's an intent behind it. It's, I'm going to figure out a way to scare you at some point in this episode. Whereas later episodes, it was like the trappings of horror were enough. And that's, I don't know. That it always bothers me. It's like, yes, the setup is a scary one. I get that, but you're not really doing anything in an attempt to freak me out.
Well, and also what I always felt like the show wanted to be kind of not nasty about it, but it kind of reveled in scaring you. That was the point of the Crypt Keeper, where he's like, "Isn't that scary?" Like,
yeah, he's supposed to be
the Crypt.
He's supposed to be a release valve.
He's been sidelined on top of everything else.
Yeah, I mean, his jokiness is to like ease you in and out of what's supposed to be a harrowing experience. Not, wasn't that dumb?
Wasn't that guy dumb? Like, that's been his episode, like, wrap-ups for season 7. Like, this person was an asshole, weren't they? They sure were.
Now, back to my bit.
Oh. Yeah. But, I mean, I feel bad for John Kassir and, like, Kevin Yeager. Like, the puppet looks like shit. John Kassir is just being given these, like, really boring, out-of-place lines.
Yeah, but you know what? When they were given the good stuff,
we're the assholes here, mind you. That's the problem.
Exactly. When those guys were given stuff to do, they knock it out of the park. So, again, this season is garbage. Don't watch this one. Did I say skip it already? I think I've been talking for 20 extra minutes. Skip this episode. Skip this season in general.
Skip it. Skip it. Don't look back. Don't look in this season for quality because it's not here.
No.
And that's a shame because Tales from the Crypt did all of us dirty.
Yeah.
If you find enjoyment in this season, great. Good for you. I'm not telling you can't enjoy it. Frankly, I don't even care if you enjoy it, just like you shouldn't care if I enjoy it. But I think we can all agree, as fans of this show, which we are, the effort that they put forward in this season, and especially this season and somewhat the last one, lacking. And that's not okay.
Not in any way, shape, or form.
No. So on that, we will bring you our final episode talking about the show proper on the next episode. And we're going to be talking about the only fully animated episode of the show. It took them 93 episodes to get there, but they're here now. And we're going to be talking about The Third Pig, which I kid you not, the final episode of Tales from the Crypt is based on The Three Little Pigs. Because even the final episode of the show isn't based on Tales from the Crypt.
Right to the end.
Right? They hung the lantern on it too.
They're consistent.
I mean, it does beggar the question, though, could they have done this show like that, where they take stories and put them through the Tales from the Crypt lens? That's the question I want answered on the next episode, because I've never seen it, but I'm curious.
We will discuss. The answer is no.
So until then, where can people find you, Father Malone? Oh, great. God damn you! No!
You can hear me if you want to check me out any of the crazy nonsense I post, go to fathermalone.com. I got links there to everything, including the main thing that I do, which is I write and produce a half-hour to 45-minute radio drama every month called Dark Destinations, where we bring you to towns that do not exist. You can also hear me with Chris and our good man Mike White over at Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast, as I've been quoted as saying the only decent reboot of the Twilight Zone that exists.
Not only have you been quoted saying it, I say it at the beginning of every podcast.
I know you do. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Christmas Claus. And that's where I am. Culturecast, other things. I post it there. Yeah, that's where you can find me. You can find us on Twitter at Chronicles FTC and on Instagram. And yeah, that's where you can find us, chroniclesftc.com, or excuse me, chroniclesfromthecrypt.com. Big thanks as always to John Kassir for being the Crypt Keeper that we definitely deserved, because man, that guy he's still putting in work right until the end.
Oh yeah.
So you got to give him credit for that. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode.